MMA boxing talk here. I want to talk about Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. It's happening in 2 days. I'm going to try to give somewhat of a prediction here, but let's be honest, nobody really knows exactly what's going to happen. I know the boxing experts, they think they know exactly what's going to happen, but they'll be surprised. Um, and I just want to say this right before I get going. Floyd Mayweather is not the greatest of all time. That is blasphemy. He's an amazing fighter. He really is. He's a tremendous fighter. He's a fighter that in his early days was a real killer. If you look at his first 29 fights, Floyd Mayweather was 29 and 0 with 20 knockouts. I believe that's like a 60 some percent knockout ratio. Since then, since then he's been 20 and 0 with 6 KOs. And I know that has to do with his bad hands and whatever. But here's the thing. Floyd Mayweather, I'll be quite honest, he is one of the greatest defensive fighters of all time. You could even say he is the best defensive fighter of all time. But the honest truth is that Floyd Mayweather is one of the best fighters in his generation. He just is. He's not the best. He's not the clear-cut best. Just because he's undefeated doesn't mean he's the best. There's a thing called picking your fights, fighting guys at the right time. And he did great at that, but that's not the most honorable thing. What is honorable is fighting the best fighters when those fighters are at their best, in their prime. That's key. Now, just a fun quick stat before I really get into it. Floyd Mayweather has only ever fought 3 guys that were on the pound for pound list when he fought them. And those 3 guys would be Ricky Hatton. I believe when he fought Ricky Hatton, he was number 10 on the pound for pound list. Marquez. When he fought Marquez, he was on the pound for pound list. And of course, Manny Pacquiao. But Manny Pacquiao, so that's 3 guys Floyd's fought that were on the pound for pound list when he fought them. Pacquiao fought 13. You can go through it. He fought Barrera twice. He fought Marquez 4 times. I think the 4th time, I don't know if he was on the pound for pound list. He fought Morales 3 times, who was on the pound for pound list. He fought Miguel Cotto, who was on the pound for pound list. I believe Tim Bradley was on the pound for pound list. So he's fought, guys that fight after fight after fight, he was fighting the best guys who were in their prime, at their best. That's just something Floyd has not done. And it is what it is. He's still a tremendous fighter. But let's get into it. So the boxing community, they say Conor has 0 chance. But let's be honest, they really don't know shit about Conor McGregor. They know he's 0 and 0. They know his pro record in boxing. But if you ask boxing experts, they're not going to be able to tell you a whole lot about Conor McGregor. They might have only seen 1 or 2 of his fights. I've had the luxury of being a big Conor McGregor fan way before he became mainstream, I've been a fan of Conor McGregor since, I would say, it was the summer of 2014. So it's been at least 3 years where I've been a big fan of Conor McGregor. So I know a lot about him. I know a lot more about Conor McGregor than any boxing expert out there. And maybe I think I have about 2 reasons why I think the boxing experts and the boxing hardcores are saying that Conor McGregor has 0 chance. And here's the 2 reasons. For one, they've only seen Conor fight maybe once or twice, maybe not at all. They're only looking at his pro record in boxing, which is 0 and 0. Or I think a big reason why boxing fans are giving Conor McGregor 0 chance to win is that they're not willing to entertain the possibility of this fight being close. And the reason, because they're scared of the implications it would have on the sport of boxing. If Floyd loses, they're worried that, boxing will lose its credibility. Even Teddy Atlas said that. He's scared of Conor winning because then you're going to have all these people saying that, oh, well, boxing's just not as good as MMA. And MMA fighters can beat boxers at their own sport, And I understand that. That makes sense, people that have, you know, they've been boxing lifers, and boxing is close to their heart, which boxing is close to my heart, maybe not as close as it is to them. Um, but I understand that, so they don't even want to entertain the possibility of it being a competitive fight. Another thing too is casual fans, they don't realize Floyd is a shell of himself, and he's not TBE. They don't realize that. They're just buying whatever the media tells them, just like people buy whatever the news tells them. But let's be honest here. Floyd Mayweather is 40 years old, and yes, in the past, Floyd has been notorious for taking long breaks, coming back looking just as good. Like after he fought, I think it was De La Hoya or Ricky Hatton in '07. He took about 18 months off, came back, fought Marquez, who was on the pound for pound list, and looked sensational. But that was in 2009. Okay, that was 8 years ago. Floyd was 32 years old. Now he's 40 years old, and he hasn't boxed in 2 years. So I don't care how much you stay in the gym and all that stuff. Floyd's 40 years old. He's just not what he once was. Another thing I hear a lot of is that the quote, Conor has never boxed before, which is totally, totally bullshit. Conor has never had a pro boxing fight, but Conor's been boxing his whole life. This guy started maybe not at 4 years old, but Conor has been boxing since he was 12 or 13. And let's not make any mistake about it here. Conor pays the bills because of his boxing skills. I mean, that's just the way it is. Yes, he has tremendous movement and self-belief. His mind is bulletproof and all that stuff, but he's a boxer. He has his success in MMA by boxing. So to say Conor has never boxed before, be a little more specific. Another interesting thing is that, in my opinion, and I can make a pretty good case for this, is that none of Floyd's opponents that he's fought in the past have ever been on a massive stage like Conor McGregor has been. Conor McGregor has been on the biggest stage, and Floyd has never fought a guy who has been on that type of stage. And yes, you can say, well, Oscar De La Hoya and Shane Mosley and all these guys were on huge stages, and they were pay-per-view stars and all that stuff. But Oscar, for example, he never put himself out there like Conor McGregor. When you put yourself out there verbally and with such confidence and conviction, plus you have millions and millions of people watching, that adds so much pressure. So much pressure. And that's something that Oscar has never experienced. Conor McGregor always puts himself out there, and he thrives under that type of pressure. He'd rather have the whole world watching. After all the shit he talked, he wants the whole world to watch, and he's comfortable with that, and that's how he excels. And like, for example, Oscar De La Hoya, before he fought Floyd Mayweather, his biggest pay-per-view fight was against Tito Trinidad. And that did 1.4 million pay-per-view buys, which is insane. That's a lot, But here's the thing. They were both undefeated. They were both young up-and-comers. And they both had countries behind them. That's the only reason why that pay-per-view did so good. Because you had Mexico versus Puerto Rico, two, historic boxing countries. But if you look, other than that fight, Oscar never did more than 1 million buys. Conor did 1.65 million buys against Nate Diaz. And yeah, Nate Diaz had his own little fan base, but Conor McGregor made Nate Diaz into a superstar. Let's not kid ourselves here. So, like I said, Floyd has never faced someone who has been on a big stage and that can handle pressure like Conor McGregor has. He just hasn't. It's just the way it is. And and the craziest part is that Conor has only been in the UFC for 4 years. He's only been a mainstream star for 2 years. So he blows Oscar and Floyd out of the water when you reasonably compare pay-per-view numbers. I mean, where was Oscar? Well, okay, Oscar had sold some pretty good pay-per-views by 29. But Floyd hadn't. Floyd had his Floyd fought Oscar when he was 30 years old. That was his big coming out party. That's when he really became a big star. And I don't. This isn't a video to shit on them. This is just the truth. And I really think that's going to play a factor because a lot of Floyd's opponents in the past have been already defeated. They weren't used to fighting on that level, and they trained and worked their whole careers to get to this point, and they're fighting Floyd Mayweather. They've never been on that stage before. That's not going to be Conor McGregor. He's been on that stage before, and I just feel that my prediction, and this isn't a real good prediction, but my prediction is that Conor McGregor is going to make this fight much, much more competitive than people are saying. That's my prediction. My prediction is this fight will be competitive. I don't see Floyd knocking out Conor, but it can happen. I think Conor would really have to really punch himself out and have absolutely, barely any energy left, and Floyd would overwhelm him and get the TKO or possibly a knockout. I guess Conor could knock out Floyd. I'd be very surprised at that. But yeah, it's an interesting fight, and Conor is one of those guys who looks at film and over hours and hours and hours and hours on film. He's watched so much of Floyd Mayweather, and to be honest, Floyd Mayweather's going into this fight thinking, this guy's 0-0, 0-0. He really has nothing for me. I'm still going to respect him because I don't want to lose, but he's not training with the intensity Conor McGregor is. He's just not, It doesn't take a genius to figure that out just by following his social media. I'm not sure what's going to happen in this fight, but I'm not going to put anything past Conor McGregor. This is a guy who collected a welfare check 4 years ago, and now he's going to make $100 million in a boxing fight. I just won't put anything past him. I just won't. So my prediction is it's going to be a competitive fight, much more competitive than the boxing aficionados are saying. And I just don't see Floyd stopping Conor because Floyd's used to fighting bigger men with smaller gloves who use elbows and kicks and all that stuff. I don't see Floyd stopping Conor. Maybe Conor gets a stoppage, but that's I don't really think that'll happen. I think it'll go the decision. It'll go all 12 rounds, and I think Floyd will probably get the decision. But Conor's going to win some rounds. There's no doubt about it. You watch. Mark my words. And what's interesting is Precise Presenter told me this one time that, Floyd's done. His career's done. Vegas has gotten so much money from Floyd. They've had his business for years and years. They have nothing left to do with Floyd. So could you imagine if they give Conor McGregor the decision, even though Floyd probably wins the fight, they give Conor the decision because he's a young guy and he's going to be fighting in Vegas for years and years to come. They want to make him the man. Plus, you could there'd be a rematch involved, which would make them so much more money. So don't be surprised if Floyd Mayweather loses by decision. Call it a robbery or whatever, but that would set up another rematch, a rematch that would make them so much more money, Vegas, and then they'd have a big, young, mega star in Conor McGregor, a star that we've never seen in combat sports, period. He would be bigger than Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson put together if that happens. Just because everyone thinks Floyd is the greatest of all time, and everybody knows who he is, and everyone knows who Conor is. And could you imagine them playing back all the shit Conor said in the build-up, and he really gets the win? And Floyd's gotten wins in his career that he didn't deserve either. So it is what it is. But anyway, that's my spiel on this fight. I do see it going all 12, and I see it being competitive enough. That's it for this one. If you like the video, subscribe. Check me out on Twitter at MMA Boxing Talk 1.